On this AVNation special, we sit down with Mike Blackman, who has just announced the brand new ISE live and online version of Integrated Systems Europe, the month of June for 2021. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, ISE, live and online. This is Tim Albright with an AVNation special talking about Integrated Systems Europe. Still in March, we'll explain in a second. With me today is the fantastic Managing Director, Mr. Mike Blackman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be with you again.
Thank you, sir. We're making a habit of this, which I personally don't have a problem with because Mike has the best stories in the world. Just for the record, if you ever get to have a drink with him, ask him. You guys announced today, we're recording this on March 11th, that ISE and the co-owners of Vista and Cedia, you guys are jointly announcing ISE live and online. It's a series of local events as well as digital ones through the month of June in Barcelona, in Munich, in Amsterdam, and in London. So real quickly, we've got a couple of questions. Wanted to catch up with you on some of these. They are not on the same date, which I found interesting, and you can explain that in a second. But first, more of a practical question. What is this show going to look like? What are these shows going to look like? Are these miniature road shows? Are these what would we commonly call a tabletop show? Are they smaller booths? In your head, what do these local live and digital ones look like?
So it's certainly not a tabletop show. What you're going to see is it's not going to be what ISE was in the past. You're not going to see the big 1,000 square meter booths from Samsung. Basically, it's shell scheme. You've seen the shell scheme structure that we have in Europe. It's not post and rope. It's structured with walls, with carpet, with lighting, with power, etc., and furniture. So what we're doing is providing all of our exhibitors with a shell scheme structure of various sizes, depending on the size of the company, and we're providing that in every location for them, so it's easy for them to actually set up and break down. Our concept, actually, we're organizing shipping for them as well. So all the exhibitor has to do is send his gear to the first location. It arrives on his booth. But they have to unpack. The boxes are collected, taken away. At the end of the event, the boxes are brought back. They pack up, and then whoever's in the next location, whether it's the same team or the local team, those boxes are going to arrive on their space. They unpack and go through the same procedures for every single location. So this is not tabletops. This is not post and rope. This is shell scheme. It's a standard structure that we have in Europe. We have it in the US as well, but we don't commonly see it at trade shows in the US. But it's not going to be custom built. You will see some custom built in Barcelona, though.
That's the thing is the one thing, and I think I've said this on various programs before. The one thing that strikes me about the ISE show is the first time I went over there at the RAI in Amsterdam was the custom build. I could probably have this percentage wrong. 90% of the booths there, someone is physically hammering and sawing and putting things together. It is custom, which is stuff that we don't have here in the States, at least by and large. I mean, I'm sure that some people do. It's not all modular, but it's all pretty much pre-made, and you kind of put it up.
Yeah. And that is something. Yes, it's been one of the things that sets ISE aside from a lot of other shows. And one thing we notice is when we get people from outside of Europe coming in, it's really like, wow. And you see the extent and effort that these companies go to in actually creating their booths and creating the experiences that people get at ISE. But that's expensive. You've got to look at these booths costing, some of the large ones costing a couple of $1 million. And in these times, what we've looked at is said, okay, that's when you're trying to get a return on investment after you spend that sort of money, you need a lot of people, and we're not going to have that this year at ISE. So we came back with a concept and said, look, okay, you don't need to make that investment. You also don't, and another part of that is as well, I think I told you that we had to make this decision, announce a decision by the 1st of March for our exhibitors, because normally the process of building those palaces, they have to give the orders about 3 months before the show. Those booth builders are actually starting the process of prefabricating some of the booth in their warehouses, in their workshops. They ship that to Barcelona, and then they screw it all together and paint it and do the finishing. And that takes time. So, once a booth builder has that commitment, obviously he wants his money for it. He's doing work for it. And
Absolutely.
one of the things the exhibitors said to us is, look, we can't make that commitment if suddenly, everything turns pear-shaped in May and you have to cancel. Now, we went through all this, and everyone actually felt quite confident that we could actually deliver a show in June, sorry. But where the issue came was actually attendees having the confidence to travel.
And that explains, the kind of the breaking up and taking it from the June 1st to the 24th.
Yeah.
One of the things that has kind of come up is and we asked David Buskis this almost a year ago, Mike, when Infocom was canceled, and he used the word cancel, right? He said Infocom is canceled. We will come up with something at a later date, and they eventually did, right? Infocom connected. So I'll ask you the opposite of that. Why aren't you saying canceled? Because it is, Integrated Systems Europe as a show, as a single entity, 4-day event that the industry is used to, isn't going to happen. Something else will happen. So why on the other side of that don't you use the word cancel?
We have repositioned it. It's, the event is still taking place. The focus of what ISE does is to bring the AV industry together, to bring the manufacturers and channel together with the buyers. And that's what we're doing. It's not going to be the same as we've had in the past. I mean, if you want to compare it what we had in Geneva and Amsterdam 17 years ago, yes, it's comparable. That was about the size of the show.
But it's not that anymore. I mean, that is not, again, he has the best stories, and ask him about Geneva. But go ahead.
Sorry, you did what? Sorry?
I said he does have the best stories, and ask him about Geneva whenever you do talk to Mike. But go ahead.
No, but I mean, think about it. The Geneva show was actually smaller, and that was still called ISE. Now, these are exceptional times, and it takes, we need to do exceptional things now. And talking to our exhibitors and listening to their concerns and listening to the concerns of their customers as well, what came back was, we're nervous about doing a show at this size and spending that sort of money, but we still want to meet our customers. But when we talk to our customers, they're nervous about traveling. So we're not sure we'll see the sort of numbers in Barcelona that you normally have. What can we do? And they also said, they spoke to their customers. Well, firstly, they said, if we cancelled ISE, they would do their own thing. So, with that discussion, we said, well, then maybe we should do that thing for you as well. And what came very, very clear from their customers was that whilst they were nervous about traveling to Barcelona, they were very keen to do travel within their own countries to meet with the exhibitors. So based on that, we looked at the key locations. I mean, obviously in Europe, the strongest AV markets are UK and Germany. So those two had to be on the calendar. Amsterdam was the place that had our strongest attendance in the last few years, obviously because we were there. And when we did our research on moving to Barcelona, what was very clear was we would lose a substantial part of our audience from the Benelux, but we would gain much, much more from Southern Europe to replace that. So, we looked at it and said, okay, Amsterdam is somewhere we should actually go to as well, to actually engage with those customers we've had in the past and, give them some more experience and have another chance to try and, give these people the incentive to come to Barcelona in 2022. And then we added London to it as well. Obviously, Barcelona, we had to start in Barcelona because that's the new home. And we know we will pick up a big audience there. We know that particularly the Spanish audience are dying to see ISE in whatever form it is. I've had unbelievable number of messages of support from the Spanish community today, from businesses. People who I've never met before are writing to me. I don't know where they get my email address, but they're writing with me with saying, we support you. We're really looking forward to see ISE in whatever form it is. So this is great motivation for us.
Well, it also has it means a lot. I'm sure coming from the different communities. Talk for a second. You ISE in general, and you personally have made no bones about the security protocols, the safety protocols, at least at the Pira, right? At the Barcelona, the new home in Barcelona there. When it comes to each of these 4 shows, what sort of safety protocols, what sort of health protocols do you guys have in place, or are you putting in place, or is it going to be more based on the region, right? London might look a little bit differently than Amsterdam simply because of the different governments.
At present, we're working on providing facilities and hygiene precautions based on the worst case. Okay. So, on what we're doing in Barcelona. And we will be assessing that as we go along, because these are things which we can change later. What we don't want to do is make promises that you won't have to wear a mask and you won't have to social distance if we have to turn around and say you do have to do that. So whilst those mitigation policies are in place, we will hold to them. If suddenly one of those governments says this is not necessary, then we will leave it to the individuals to make the decision on what they want to do, if they want to be social distance, if they want to wear a mask or not. But for the moment, that will be what we have to do.
Okay. Last question here before I let you go. ISE, and I've told you this, I've said this publicly, I've said this privately. ISE is flat out my favorite show on the calendar year. I love Infocom. Do not misunderstand it. Infocom is a North American show. ISE to me has become a global show. Yes, I understand, the history, but it to me is a global show. You have 4 locations. Granted, you have 4 locations that you can get to, and one of the answer may very well be the fact that Mike Blackman and his team can't get to the other areas of the world. Is there a reason for just 4 locations? Is there a reason to not go global? Because again, I don't think that I'm alone. I think a lot of folks think that or see ISE as a global show.
So firstly, ISE was developed, it's owned by CDN Avixa, and it was developed to serve the European market. It is a European show. Yes, we get a global audience, and that is because we see a lot of North Americans coming to ISE because they're doing business in Europe, but more so the fact it's more about time. What is happening is you're getting shows being at different times of the year. And years ago, the AV market, we saw product launches and new development happening once a year. Now it's happening all year round. And if you are in the channel, if you're an integrator and you want to keep ahead of the market, then you need to go to Infocom, you need to go to ISE, you need to go to CEDIA in the residential market, because there are new things coming up the whole time. I found a lot of people from Australia on the show last year, and I said, what are you doing? Not last year, before. And I said, what are you doing here? I said, well, we need to keep ahead, and we know this is where the product launches are happening, and we come here to see what is new on the market. So that's the reason why we have a global attendance, but we are focused as a show for the European market. It's 80% of our attendance. The other 20% are split around the world. We have about 5% coming from the US, a substantial amount from Asia and Australasia, Middle East, etc. Our focus was primarily on the EMEA region, and we get the majority of the integrators coming from the Middle East. Certainly, anyone who's in the business comes from Europe and most of the European countries. So it's something where, yes, we are primarily a European show. We do have a global audience, though.
All right, very good. Mike Blackman, if somebody wants to connect with you or they want to find out more about these now 4 versions of ISE in June, how do they do that?
You can either go to our website, so that's www.iseurope.org, or you can write to me, mblackman@iseurope.org. Or, if you're interested in exhibiting, sales@iseurope.org. Interested in attending, just go to the website and click on the register.
All right, very good. Mike Blackman from ISE. Thank you so much, sir. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. And we will also be covering Integrated Systems Europe come this June. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.